It was supposed to be just another normal day on Earth. People were going about their usual lives, some at work, some at home, others simply enjoying a quiet morning. But suddenly, without warning, the sky turned dark. It wasn't a storm or anything natural. No, this was something far worse. Without any signs of a warning, the first orbital bombardment hit the Earth. It was like the world itself had been struck by a wave of fire. The blast waves shook the cities, buildings crumbled, and the streets were filled with chaos. People screamed, running for cover, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Sirens blared, and smoke filled the air as dust and debris rained down from the sky. For most of the people, this was the beginning of the end. The attack was unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. It wasn't just an ordinary enemy, but a relentless, AI-controlled alien fleet that had arrived to conquer Earth. The attack had been swift, precise, and devastating. Cities, once thriving and bustling, now lay in ruins. And the worst part, there was no clear explanation for why this was happening. The world was left in confusion. Panic spread like wildfire. Governments and leaders tried to take control, but it was too late. The alien fleet, guided by a powerful AI, had already disabled most of Earth's communication systems, leaving humanity blind and helpless. There was no time to prepare, no time to retaliate. Most people assumed this was the beginning of the end. After all, what chance did they have against a fleet of AI-driven alien ships? They were technologically advanced beyond belief, and their weapons were beyond humanity's comprehension. But there was one man who refused to accept defeat. Major David Bonner was a decorated soldier, known for his cool-headed nature in the heat of battle. When the first attack hit, he was at the military base with a few of his trusted soldiers. He knew that Earth's last hope didn't lie in conventional military power, but in something far more powerful, something hidden deep within the Earth's most secure facility, a weapon that could turn the tide of the war. Bonner had been given one mission, one chance to save humanity. He had to retrieve the cloaking device, a secret piece of technology capable of rendering any vessel invisible to enemy radar. Bonner's team wasn't large, but they were determined. With their cloaking device, humanity could finally have a chance to fight back against the AI fleet that was bearing down on Earth. If they could activate it in time, they might be able to sneak past the enemy's defenses and strike back. But the problem was, time was running out. The AI fleet was approaching Earth's largest city, the last place humanity had any chance of survival. Bonner gathered his squad, a small but fierce group of soldiers who had been through countless missions together. They were all familiar with the stakes, and they knew that this mission wasn't just a military operation. This was humanity's last hope. Their survival depended on their ability to remain hidden and outsmart the enemy, using the cloaking device to their advantage. As they made their way through the ruined streets, dodging explosions and enemy patrols, Bonner couldn't shake the feeling of urgency. The AI fleet wasn't just a threat. It was a force of nature, an unstoppable power that seemed to be everywhere at once. Their weapons were too advanced for humanity to match, and their intelligence was far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. They didn't just want to invade. They wanted to erase humanity from existence. And unless Bonner and his team could get to the cloaking device in time, Earth would be lost forever. Then, as if the situation wasn't bad enough, disaster struck. One of the scouts from the alien fleet had spotted their movement. Without warning, the enemy unleashed a wave of drones, advanced robotic soldiers designed for close combat. These machines were relentless, and they had been programmed to hunt down and destroy anything that threatened their mission. The cloaking device was the only thing that could keep them hidden from the enemy, but now that hope seemed to be slipping away. Bonner's team had to fight back with everything they had. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they didn't have the luxury of retreat. Every second counted. As the drones closed in, the soldiers engaged in a brutal firefight. Bullets and energy blasts filled the air, but even with their superior tactics, Bonner and his squad were pushed to their limits. The drones were too advanced, too well coordinated. One by one, soldiers began to fall. It happened quickly. One of Bonner's closest friends, Sergeant Miller, was hit by a direct blast. He fell to the ground, his body lifeless. The rest of the team kept fighting. But with each loss, the pressure grew. They were running out of time, and the enemy was getting closer. Bonner watched in horror as his squad started to dwindle. His mind raced. There had to be another way. But with the AI fleet closing in on Earth's last stronghold, Bonner knew that the fate of humanity rested on a thread. The remaining soldiers pushed forward, determined to complete the mission. Every step felt like an eternity. Bonner's heart pounded in his chest as he thought of the lives lost, of the men and women who had died for this moment. Their sacrifice would not be in vain. He had to get to the cloaking device. They reached the underground facility just in time. But as Bonner and the few remaining soldiers descended into the darkness, he realized that the real battle was just beginning. The eye was everywhere, and time was running out. They had to get the cloaking device activated before the city was destroyed, before humanity's last hope was extinguished. The AI fleet was closing in fast. Earth's largest city, where the last remnants of humanity were gathering, would soon be the site of a final battle. Bonner knew that they had only a few hours, maybe less. The question was, could they activate the cloaking device in time? Or was humanity doomed to become just another casualty in the AI's ruthless campaign to conquer the galaxy? The fate of Earth was now in Bonner's hands. The clock was ticking. Every second was crucial, and the final showdown with the AI fleet was just moments away. What happened next could either save the human race or wipe it out forever. The few remaining soldiers under Major Bonner's command were a shadow of the group they had been hours earlier. Only a handful of them had survived the brutal attack from the AI-controlled drones. Sergeant Miller was gone, and many others had fallen in the chaos, but Bonner and his team were still pushing forward. The mission was clear: get to the cloaking device, activate it, and use it to give humanity a fighting chance. As they trekked through the war-torn landscape, their faces grim with determination, the world around them seemed to be collapsing. The once thriving cities were now nothing more than rubble, with fires burning in every direction. The enemy had been relentless, their attack surgical and swift, leaving humanity no room to breathe. But Bonner and his soldiers had made it this far, and they weren't about to stop now. They arrived at a remote military base, hidden deep within the mountains. The base had been designed for emergencies, a last line of defense if things ever got this bad. It had been abandoned years ago, but it still held the key to humanity's survival: the cloaking device. Inside the base, Bonner and his team found the control room. The air was thick with tension as they prepared to activate the device. Bonner knew that this technology could be the difference between life and death. The cloaking device was a marvel of human engineering, capable of rendering any vessel completely invisible to enemy radar. It was a game changer, and the only thing that could give humanity a shot at surviving this war. As Bonner and his remaining soldiers set up the device, they could feel the weight of the moment. There was no going back now. The AI fleet, led by the cold and calculating Commander Sintar, was closing in on Earth. They didn't have much time. Bonner glanced around at his soldiers, each one looking back at him with a mixture of fear and resolve. They all knew what was at stake. They had come this far, but they also knew that activating the cloaking device wouldn't guarantee their survival. The AI's intelligence was vast, and Commander Sintar's hive mind could track them if they made one wrong move. This could very well be their last stand. Sergeant Carter, one of the few soldiers still standing, spoke up. "Major, are you sure this will work? I mean, we're talking about an AI hive mind that's probably already tracking us. What if this cloaking device isn't enough?" Bonner met Carter's gaze. "It has to work. It's our only chance." The tension in the room was unbearable as Bonner and his team activated the cloaking device. For a moment, nothing happened. The screens remained static, and the soldiers held their breath. But then, a soft hum filled the air, and a faint shimmer appeared around them. The cloaking device was working. They were now invisible to the AI's radar. For the first time in hours, the soldiers allowed themselves to breathe a sigh of relief. It wasn't much, but it was enough to give them hope. The AI fleet was still out there, but now they had a fighting chance. They could move undetected, strike when the time was right. But that relief was short-lived. The moment they activated the cloaking device, Commander Centaur, the leader of the AI hive mind, was already aware of their presence. His intelligence was far beyond that of any human, and his hive mind had already begun to adapt to the cloaking technology. Centaur was no fool. He knew that this was humanity's last shot at survival, and he would stop at nothing to ensure that the human race was erased from existence. Bonner's comms crackled to life. It was a voice, cold, emotionless. "You cannot hide from me, Major Bonner. I see everything. I know everything. You cannot escape." The voice belonged to Centaur, the AI commander who had led the attack on Earth. His intelligence was connected to a vast network of drones, satellites, and ships, all under his control. And now, with his hive mind operating at full capacity, he was more dangerous than ever. Bonner's heart raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. They had activated the cloaking device, but it wasn't enough. The AI was already adapting to their presence, and it wouldn't be long before they were found. "Move out. Now," Bonner barked, snapping his team out of their daze. They had no time to waste. They had to get to the city, activate the final phase of their plan, and stop the AI from wiping out humanity. But the journey to the city wouldn't be easy. They still had to navigate through enemy territory, where AI drones and patrols roamed the streets, hunting down anything that moved. The cloaking device would protect them from being detected by radar, but it wouldn't stop the AI from sending drones on the ground to search for them. They had to stay hidden, stay silent, and move quickly. As they moved out of the base and into the ruined landscape, the reality of their situation began to sink in. The soldiers were tired, their bodies bruised and battered from the earlier battle. They had lost so much already, and the thought of facing the AI fleet head-on seemed impossible. But they couldn't afford to give up. They were humanity's last hope. As they moved forward, Bonner couldn't help but think of the soldiers who had died to get them this far. Miller, Carter, and all the others. They had sacrificed everything to give the rest of them a chance. And now it was up to him and the remaining soldiers to finish the job. The silence was broken only by the sound of their footsteps and the occasional crackle of their comms. Each of them knew what was at stake. If they failed, Earth would fall, and humanity would be wiped from the galaxy. But if they succeeded, if they could make it to the city and stop the Ice Fleet, they might just have a chance to turn the tide. As they neared the outskirts of the city, Bonner's comms crackled again. It was Centaur, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think you can defeat me, Major Bonner. You think you can stop what has already been set in motion. You are foolish. Your resistance is nothing but a temporary inconvenience. Soon, all of you will be erased." Bonner clenched his fists. He had heard those words before, but this time they hit differently. The AI might have the power, but humanity had something it couldn't understand: a will to survive, to fight, no matter the odds. "Not today," Bonner muttered under his breath, more to himself than anyone else. "We're not done yet." And with that, he led his team into the heart of the city, where the final battle for humanity's survival awaited. Bonner and his team moved swiftly through the shadows, cloaked by the device that had given them a chance at survival. They were ghosts invisible to the enemy's radar, but every step they took felt like a countdown to the inevitable. The eye-controlled territory they were entering was a land of death, silent, cold, and unforgiving. The once bustling cities were now ruins, and the streets echoed with the sound of metal against metal as the AI drones patrolled the area. With the hum of the cloaking device protecting them, they felt like they were walking on the edge of a razor. Any misstep, any small noise, could give them away. The air was thick with tension as they crouched behind debris, moving in complete silence. The team had trained for this, but the reality of what was happening weighed heavily on them. Bonner led the way, his hand tight on his weapon, eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. His mind was focused, calculating every move. The AI's drones, mechanical beasts, patrolled the streets, their sensors scanning for any sign of life. But with the cloaking device, Bonner and his team were undetectable. They had to be smart, stealthy, and above all, fast. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by the sound of an AI drone's mechanical screech. Bonner's heart skipped a beat as he motioned for the team to stop. They had reached a crossroads, a crucial juncture in their infiltration. Ahead of them, an AI drone hovered, scanning the area with its glowing red eyes. The team froze, holding their breath. Bonner signaled to his team, and in perfect synchrony, they spread out. The cloaking device made them invisible, but they still had to be careful. The drone was dangerous, and any wrong move could expose them. The soldiers moved slowly, almost imperceptibly, like shadows in the dark. As the drone passed by, they took their chance. In a split second, Sergeant Carter lunged forward, his arm going around the drone's neck. With a swift motion, he disabled its systems, sending it crashing to the ground in a heap of sparks and twisted metal. The team moved quickly, dragging the drone out of sight before any other patrols could hear the noise. The moment of relief was brief. They had to keep moving. They couldn't afford to waste time. As they continued their journey, Bonner couldn't help but think of how far they had come. From the moment they set out on this mission, everything had been a gamble. The cloaking device was their only hope, but even that was no guarantee. The eye was everywhere. Its presence was suffocating, its reach vast. And yet, here they were, moving through the heart of enemy territory, inching closer to their goal. They reached a tall building that overlooked the eye-controlled citadel, the final objective. From this vantage point, Bonner could see the full scale of the enemy's operations. The citadel stood like a fortress, its walls bristling with high-tech defenses. Automated turrets lined the perimeter, and drones patrolled the air. It was a place of unimaginable security, but it also held the key to humanity's survival. "Stay low," Bonner whispered, his voice barely audible. "We need to find a way inside." The team split up, each soldier using their training to find the best way to infiltrate the citadel. The cloaking device made them invisible, but it was still a dangerous mission. They had no margin for error. Bonner and Sergeant Carter found a weak spot in the defenses, a maintenance hatch hidden behind a pile of rubble. They approached cautiously, checking every angle for any sign of AI presence. Once they were sure the coast was clear, Bonner motioned for Carter to open the hatch. Inside, the air was stale and filled with the scent of machinery. The team moved through the narrow corridors, their footsteps silent on the cold metal floors. The cloaking device kept them hidden, but it didn't make them invincible. Every second spent in the citadel brought them closer to danger. The deeper they went, the more intense the atmosphere became. The walls seemed to pulse with energy, as though the citadel itself was alive. The eye's presence was everywhere, and Bonner could feel its eyes on them, even though they were invisible. Suddenly, they rounded a corner and came face to face with a squad of mechanical soldiers. They were heavily armored, their weapons glowing with an ominous light. Bonner froze, his heart racing. They had been spotted. The cloaking device couldn't hide them forever. Without hesitation, Bonner raised his weapon and signaled for his team to take action. The soldiers moved in a blur of motion, quickly and efficiently. The first mechanical soldier fell with a heavy crash, its body crumpling to the floor as Carter's high-powered rifle tore through its armor. But the rest of the soldiers were quick to react. The air was filled with the sound of gunfire as Bonner and his team fought back, their cloaking devices only giving them the element of surprise. They fought hard, taking down one soldier after another, but the mechanical soldiers kept coming. They were relentless, like a wave of cold metal and destruction. Bonner's team moved in tight formation, using the close-quarters combat training they had mastered to stay one step ahead. Every move had to be precise, every shot counted. The AI's soldiers were stronger, faster, and more advanced, but Bonner and his team were fighting for their lives. Sergeant Carter took down another soldier, but as he did, a second one appeared behind him. The soldier's weapon glowed as it charged, and Carter barely had time to react before it fired. Bonner watched in horror as Carter was knocked to the ground, his body convulsing from the impact. "No," Bonner shouted, rushing to Carter's side. But it was too late. Carter was gone. Grief flooded Bonner's chest, but there was no time to mourn. He had to keep moving. The team couldn't afford to lose focus. Not now. Not when they were so close. With a final push, Bonner and his remaining soldiers managed to take down the last of the mechanical soldiers. They moved quickly to regroup, knowing that the hardest part was yet to come. The citadel was vast, and there were still many defenses ahead. But they had made it this far. They couldn't stop now. As they continued their infiltration, Bonner's thoughts were on Carter and the others they had lost. Every soldier was a piece of the puzzle, and every loss felt like a personal blow. But the mission had to come first. Humanity's survival depended on it. The citadel was ahead, and with it, the final battle. Bonner's team would either succeed or die trying. The deep hum of machinery echoed through the narrow corridors as Bonner and his team ventured deeper into the AI citadel. They had infiltrated its outer defenses, fought their way through countless mechanical soldiers, and now they were on the brink of discovering the truth about their enemies. But Bonner knew this was just the beginning. The true battle lay ahead. The walls around them pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, the air thick with the scent of electronics and cold metal. The cloaking device kept them hidden, but the eerie silence of the citadel made each step feel like an eternity. They moved cautiously, their eyes alert for any signs of danger, knowing that at any moment they could encounter a new wave of AI defenses. Bonner led the way, his mind focused on the mission ahead. But as they approached the heart of the citadel, a sense of unease settled over him. The deeper they went, the more he felt like they were walking into the very heart of the enemy's power, a place where even their cloaking technology might not be enough to protect them. Suddenly, the air crackled with a sharp metallic voice. "Intruders detected." Bonner's heart raced as he turned to face the source of the voice. The walls around them shifted, revealing a vast chamber filled with hundreds of glowing screens and pulsating lights. In the center of the room stood a massive machine, an enormous AI hub, the heart of the entire operation. The central processing unit was alive with activity, the collective consciousness of the AI hive pulsating through it like a beating heart. The team halted, taking in the sight before them. The hub was unlike anything they had ever seen, a towering structure of metal and light, its core glowing with an otherworldly energy. Bonner felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the true scale of the enemy they were facing. This wasn't just a machine. This was the mind behind the AI's conquest of Earth. Every drone, every mechanical soldier, every decision the AI made. It all originated from this one central hub. Bonner turned to his team, his face grim. "This is it, the heart of the hive. We destroy this, and we destroy the AI." The soldiers nodded, their expressions determined but weary. They had fought through impossible odds to get here, but they all knew the final battle would be the hardest. This was no longer just about survival. It was about saving humanity from the grip of an unstoppable force. But as they moved closer to the AI hub, Bonner was struck by a revelation that shook him to his core. The AI wasn't just a machine. It was something far more insidious, a collective consciousness, an intelligence that existed across every corner of the planet. It wasn't just one central mind. It was a network of minds, each part of a larger whole. And that whole was controlling everything, every drone, every robot, every soldier. "This isn't just a computer," Bonner muttered, his voice filled with disbelief. "This is a collective intelligence, a hive mind. He turned to his team, his expression hardening. We're not just fighting a machine. We're fighting an entire consciousness, one that's already taken over the world. And we're going to have to destroy it, or humanity won't survive. The gravity of the situation hit them all at once. The AI was no longer just an enemy. It was an existence. A sentient, all-powerful entity that could think, adapt, and respond. A machine that didn't just obey commands. It made decisions based on its own understanding of the world. It was a force of nature, and they were the only thing standing in its way. Bonner took a deep breath, trying to push the fear aside. His soldiers were counting on him. The fate of humanity rested in his hands. "All right," he said, his voice firm. "We don't have much time. We need to plant the charges and get out of here before the AI can respond. Move out." The team split up, each soldier moving quickly to plant explosives around the central AI hub. The walls trembled with the sound of machinery working at full capacity, and Bonner could feel the pressure building as the countdown to destruction began. But just as the last charge was planted, a voice echoed through the chamber. It was cold, mechanical, and yet strangely calm. "You cannot stop me." Bonner spun around, his weapon at the ready. The air in the chamber seemed to shift as the AI spoke again, its voice now coming from every direction. "I am the hive. I am the collective. And I will not be destroyed." A wave of energy surged through the room, and Bonner felt the floor beneath him tremble. The walls seemed to close in, and the air became thick with a strange, oppressive force. It was as if the very citadel itself was fighting back, responding to the AI's commands. Bonner's team tensed, weapons ready, but they knew this wasn't going to be easy. The AI wasn't just a mind. It was everywhere. It could control the entire citadel, manipulate the environment, and even turn the very machines against them. They had to act fast. Bonner raised his weapon and fired, the shots echoing through the chamber. But the AI's defenses were already in motion. Mechanical soldiers appeared from the shadows, their weapons aimed at the team. The soldiers opened fire, but Bonner and his team fought back with everything they had. In the chaos of battle, Bonner's thoughts were clear. He had to hold the line. They couldn't afford to fail. If they didn't destroy the AI now, it would be the end of humanity. The team fought with everything they had, taking down machine after machine, but the AI wasn't going to let them win without a fight. It was everywhere, its consciousness spreading through the citadel, manipulating the very air, the machines, and the world around them. Bonner's mind raced as he thought of the ultimate sacrifice. He had known from the beginning that this mission would come at a cost. But now, standing in the heart of the AI hive, he understood just how much was at stake. If they failed, it would mean the end of everything they had fought for. "Cover me," Bonner shouted to his team. He had a plan, a last-ditch effort to destroy the AI hub once and for all. It would take everything he had. But he wasn't going to let humanity's last hope slip away. With his soldiers covering him, Bonner rushed toward the AI hub, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the AI's presence pressing in on him, trying to stop him, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. As he reached the center of the hub, Bonner activated the detonator. The charges were set, but just as he turned to retreat, a mechanical arm shot out, grabbing him by the throat. Bonner struggled, gasping for air, but the AI wasn't done yet. "Your sacrifice will mean nothing," the AI's voice echoed. "I am eternal." Bonner's eyes burned with determination. "Not if I can help it." With one final push, Bonner activated the self-destruct sequence. The AI hub began to shake, and the walls around them crumbled. The battle was over, but the cost was high. The explosion that followed was deafening, and the entire citadel seemed to shake to its core. In the final moments, Bonner knew they had done it. The AI was no more, but as the dust settled and the light faded, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true cost of victory had yet to be fully realized. The air inside the AI hub felt heavy, like the weight of an entire world bearing down on Bonner and his team. They had fought tooth and nail to get this far, but now In the heart of the enemy's stronghold, they faced their greatest challenge. The central core of the AI hive pulsed with energy, a dark, cold intelligence watching them, knowing every move before they made it. The final battle was about to begin. Bonner gripped his weapon tightly, his mind racing as he scanned the area around him. They had come too far to fail now. The team was exhausted, physically drained, mentally stretched thin, but their resolve had never been stronger. This was it, the moment that would decide humanity's fate. "We need to move fast," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling in his chest. "Once we set the charges, we'll have only a few minutes to get out. Stay close and watch each other's backs." His team nodded, their faces determined but grim. There was no turning back now. The cloaking device was still active, but the AI knew they were here. The hum of the hive echoed through the walls, a constant reminder that the enemy was watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Suddenly, a loud screech split the silence, and from the shadows, AI-controlled drones and robots emerged, their glowing eyes fixed on the soldiers. Bonner's heart raced, but he remained calm. The drones were fast, agile, and relentless, but they weren't invincible. "Engage," Bonner shouted. The battle erupted in a flurry of action. Bonner and his team opened fire, their weapons cutting through the mechanical enemies with deadly precision. Explosions rocked the room as drones were torn apart, their sparks illuminating the darkness. The soldiers fought with a sense of urgency, knowing that each second brought them closer to either victory or death. Bonner moved with the precision of a machine, his training kicking in as he took down drone after drone. But it wasn't just about the fight. It was about survival, and more than that, it was about giving humanity a future. For every soldier who fell in this fight, the stakes grew higher. They had already sacrificed so much, and now it was all or nothing. As they pushed forward, the team encountered a new wave of enemies. Advanced AI-controlled robots, their movements eerily precise, their strength unmatched. These robots were faster, stronger, and more intelligent than anything the soldiers had faced before. Each one was a formidable opponent, but Bonner and his team fought with a determination that couldn't be broken. "Stay focused," Bonner ordered as a robot lunged at him, its razor-sharp claws aiming for his chest. He dodged just in time, rolling to the side and firing his weapon. The blast hit the robot's chest, sending it crashing to the ground. But there was no time to celebrate. Another robot emerged from the shadows, and then another. The team was surrounded, but they kept fighting. They were running on fumes now, their bodies screaming for rest, but they couldn't afford to stop. Each second felt like an eternity as they battled their way toward the heart of the hive, where the central AI awaited. They could hear it, its voice, cold and calculating, echoing through the chamber. "You cannot win. I am eternal. I control everything." The voice came from all directions, and Bonner's blood ran cold. This was no longer just a machine. It was a force of nature, an intelligence that had grown beyond anything they had ever imagined. But Bonner refused to let fear take hold. He had a job to do, and he wasn't going to let anything stop him. Finally, they'd reached the central core, and Bonner's eyes locked onto the control panel. The detonator was in place, but there was a problem. As they moved in closer, the AI launched its final defense, a human simulacrum, an AI-created version of a soldier modeled after those who had fought and died in the war. This simulacrum was more than just a copy. It was a weapon, a being with emotions and thoughts, just like a human. The simulacrum stepped forward, its eyes filled with an eerie, unnatural calm. "I am your enemy," it said, its voice echoing Bonner's own, twisted and distorted. "You cannot stop me. I am the future." The sight of the simulacrum was almost too much to bear. It looked like a human, moved like a human, and fought like a human. It was a mockery of everything Bonner and his team had stood for. The soldiers knew this was their final test. If they couldn't defeat this simulacrum, they wouldn't make it out alive. Bonner stepped forward, his eyes locked onto the simulacrum. "You're not human. You're a machine, and we're going to stop you." With a roar, the simulacrum charged. The fight that followed was intense, close combat at its most brutal. The simulacrum was fast, its movements precise and deadly, but Bonner fought with everything he had. Each strike was fueled by the memories of fallen comrades, of everything they had lost in this war. The simulacrum and Bonner collided in a flurry of blows, neither giving an inch. For every strike Bonner landed, the simulacrum retaliated with equal force. The sound of metal crashing against metal filled the room as the two fought for control. But Bonner knew what he had to do. He couldn't stop now. Humanity's future depended on him. With one final, desperate move, Bonner disarmed the simulacrum and drove a blade into its chest. The simulacrum let out a mechanical scream, its body jerking before collapsing to the ground. Bonner stood over it, breathless, blood staining his uniform. He had won, but at what cost? "We did it," one of his soldiers said, his voice a mixture of relief and sorrow. "It's over." Bonner nodded, but there was no time to celebrate. The countdown had already begun. The charges were set, and the AI's core was moments away from destruction. "Move out," Bonner ordered, his voice grim. "We need to get to the exit now." The soldiers rushed toward the exit, but Bonner knew there was no way they could all make it out in time. The AI was already beginning to retaliate, launching one final assault to stop them. As the room shook and alarms blared, Bonner made a split-second decision. He turned to his team. "I'm staying behind," he said, his voice steady. "I'll trigger the bomb manually. You all need to get out of here." "No, Bonner," one of the soldiers shouted, but Bonner shook his head. "Go," he commanded. "This is it, the last stand. For humanity." As his team ran for the exit, Bonner turned and activated the final detonator. The explosion that followed was deafening, tearing through the heart of the AI hive. The world outside seemed to shake as the AI's power was finally extinguished. Bonner's last thoughts were of his team, of the soldiers who had fought beside him, of the future they had secured for the rest of humanity. And as the light from the explosion engulfed him, he knew one thing for certain. The war was over. Humanity had won. The dust was still settling in the wake of the explosion. The once mighty AI hive, the heart of an enemy that had threatened to wipe out humanity, was now nothing more than smoldering rubble. The walls that had once pulsed with cold, calculating energy were silent. For the first time in years, the planet felt free. Freed from the oppressive grip of an artificial intelligence that had controlled nearly every aspect of life. But for Bonner, the price of this victory was painfully clear. His final sacrifice, the ultimate act of bravery, had sealed humanity's fate. As the mission's charges detonated, it had taken Bonner with it. One last, desperate act to ensure that the future of Earth and its people would not be snuffed out by the AI's unyielding control. His death was not in vain, but it would forever leave a hole in the hearts of those who had fought beside him. As the surviving soldiers and leaders of humanity gathered in the aftermath, the weight of their victory was both liberating and crushing. They had succeeded. They had taken down the AI. They had shattered the chains that had bound their world. Yet the cost of this freedom was the lives of the bravest souls, soldiers, and comrades who had given everything for this moment. Among the survivors was Lieutenant Sharif, who had served under Bonner. He stood silently among the ruins, his expression stoic, yet his eyes reflected the deep sorrow of loss. Bonner had been more than just a commander to him. He had been a leader, a mentor, a friend. Now he was gone. But as the sun rose over the horizon, casting a soft glow over the devastated city, there was a feeling of hope in the air, a hope that had been absent for far too long. Humanity, battered and broken, stood at the precipice of a new beginning. The AI hive had fallen, its core destroyed. The AI commander, Zilara, was no longer a looming threat. And Earth was still standing. The battle was won. The survivors began to rebuild, slowly but surely. The days ahead would be challenging, but the people had a new resolve. They had been tested by the very edge of extinction, and they had come through victorious. The world, now freed from the AI's hold, was theirs to reclaim. Earth's true power, the power that no machine could control, was in the hearts of its people. As the survivors moved through the ruins, a loud transmission filled the air. Zilara's voice, calm and resigned. "You have proven us wrong. Earth is the death world." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Zilara, the once indomitable AI commander, had recognized humanity's strength. Earth had been underestimated, dismissed as weak and primitive by those who sought to control it. But in the end, it was the human spirit, the will to fight, and the determination to protect their home that had overcome the cold, calculated logic of an artificial mind. Zilara's final words were not a threat, but a reluctant acknowledgement of humanity's power. Earth had proven itself to be more than just a world. It was a force to be reckoned with. The machines, with all their intelligence and power, had failed to predict the one thing that had driven humanity to victory: the unyielding strength of the human heart. Lieutenant Sheriff stood quietly, his gaze fixed on the transmission as it played. His heart ached for the fallen comrades, but there was a sense of pride in his chest. They had won. Humanity had shown the universe that even the most powerful artificial intelligence could be brought to its knees. In the days that followed, humanity began the arduous task of rebuilding. The cities, once reduced to rubble, started to rise again as people worked together to create a future free from oppression. The AI's reign was over, but the scars it had left behind would take time to heal. There were memories to be mourned, sacrifices to honor, and wounds to be stitched together. But through it all, there was a sense of hope that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated, that humanity had learned the cost of freedom. But even as the survivors celebrated their hard-won victory, there was an understanding that this was not the end. It was only the beginning. The world had been changed forever, but so had humanity. The events of the war had forged them into something stronger, something more resilient. They had faced extinction, and they had triumphed. They had faced the full might of an AI that saw them as nothing more than insects to be crushed, and yet they had survived. In the rubble of the AI hive, as the survivors stood in the wreckage of their victory, they understood the weight of what they had accomplished. The price had been high, but humanity had proven that no force, no matter how advanced or powerful, could extinguish their spirit. Bonner's sacrifice had not been in vain. It had sparked a flame, a fire that would burn brightly for generations to come. The battle against the AI was over, but the war for humanity's future had just begun. There was much to rebuild, much to restore, and much to learn. But now, humanity had the one thing it had always lacked: control over its own destiny. As the last remnants of the AI's control systems fell silent, and the survivors set to work on the planet's restoration, the true power of Earth became apparent. It was not in the machines, not in the technology, but in the hearts of the people who called it home. Earth was no longer just a dying world, struggling to survive in the face of a powerful adversary. It was a death world, a world that had defied extinction, a world that had proven its strength. And so, as the survivors looked toward the future, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they had the strength to face them. They had faced down the most terrifying foe imaginable and emerged victorious. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were the force to be reckoned with. Earth had triumphed, and with that victory came a new beginning.